Good morning. It is excellent to be able to see all of you. Man, I've just got to say, being through everything that's happened this year, it's just such a blessing to be able to get together with everybody and to see everyone, even if we got to wear a mask, even if all we can do is touch elbows, even if everything everywhere else is just crazy and on its head. The fact that we're able to get together and to rejoice in the one person, as Drew said, who can fix everything, the one person who can actually solve all the problems we're dealing with, to be able to worship him and to do that together it's just something that can keep us so focused and just keep us happy, even though things are so crazy. So I know last week was Father's Day. So I'm going to ask for a little audience participation. If you're a dad who was gifted with a new tool or drill, can you give me some kind of indication? Okay. Maybe a grill, maybe some kind of new tool. Okay. Yeah, we got some guys in here. Okay. Perfect. Yes. All right. Perfect. So we got quite a few in here. All right. Excellent. So whenever you get a new tool or grill, what's the first thing you want to do? You got to start a project, or you got to cook something, right? You got to put it to use. You got to use it as soon as you get it. Okay. So I'm not a father yet. I'm not great with all the handiwork and all of that. I don't have many tools yet. But my hobby is fishing. And so I know whenever I get a new reel, whenever I get a new lure, it's like, oh, well, I got to find an excuse to use it, right? I got to go try this out. And sometimes when you get like a new grill or a new tool or something, sometimes you'll use it in ways that it doesn't really feel like it's perfectly suited for. But you're like, hey, I think I can use that new thing I got out in the garage. Let me see if I can use that. And your wife's like, no, don't do that. You don't need to do that. Like, no, let me go try it. Let me see if this works. All right, maybe it's just me. But I'll try to repurpose stuff. I try to kind of do the redneck way of doing things. I guess that's just my heritage, though. So I want us to turn over to Samuel chapter 12 real quick. Because while, dads may do this with tools, we may do this with the new kind of things that, somebody may get for Father's Day or whatever, I think we do this with other things as well. We kind of get a one-tracked mind about a way to deal with things, and that's kind of what we focus on. So, a little bit of context. 2 Samuel chapter 12, of course, we find David in his palace, his kingdom or whatever, and Nathan is coming to talk to him. Nathan is coming to speak to him specifically because David has engaged in his adultery with Bathsheba. He's taken Bathsheba from her home, from her husband. He sent Uriah out on the front of the battlefield to die. He's now dead. She's kind of gotten over that, okay? So they're together now. Chapter 12, verse 1, the Lord sent Nathan to David. When he came to him, he said, there were two men in a certain town, one rich and the other poor. The rich man had a very large number of sheep and cattle, but the poor man had nothing except for one little ewe lamb he had bought. He raised it, and it grew up with him, and his children. It shared his food, drank from his cup, and even slept in his arms. It was like a daughter to him. Now a traveler came to the rich man, but the rich man refrained from taking one of his own sheep or cattle to prepare a meal for the traveler who had come to him. Instead, he took the ewe lamb that belonged to the poor man and prepared it for the one who had come to him. David burned with anger against the man and said to Nathan, as surely as the Lord lives, the man who did this must die. He must pay for the lamb 4 times over because he did such a thing and had no pity. David is very quick to say, how dare he do that? That is hideous. That's awful, isn't it? It's awful that he would take another man's wife and then have him killed so that he could cover up for the fact that he had impregnated another man's wife. It's a horrible thing he's done. Verse 7, this is my favorite. This has got to be my favorite verse of this entire chapter. Then Nathan said to David, you are the man. This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I anointed you king over Israel, and I delivered you from the hand of Saul. I gave your master's house to you, your master's wives into your arms. I gave you all Israel and Judah. And if this had been too little, I would have given you even more. Why did you despise the word of the Lord by doing what is evil in his eyes? You struck down Uriah the Hittite with your sword and took his wife to be your own. You killed him with the sword of the Ammonites. Now therefore the sword will never depart from your house because you despised me and took the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your own. So this little story, Nathan tells this little story, and of course in prophetic fashion, he's telling a story that very closely relates to exactly what David has done. So he tells him this story, and David falls for it, hook, line, and sinker, another fishing reference. He falls for it, and he says, "This is horrible. Who is this person so I can go get them? I'm going to go get this person." Now, why does he respond in that way? Well, I mean, David was somebody he had been a lowly shepherd. He had been one of the younger sons from his father, and he had risen to this prominent position. He had finally got to where he was king. So David's kind of on top, right? He's the head honcho. He's the man ruling. And so he's now mighty enough to be able to handle this, right? Hey, I can tell this person that they did something wrong because that's my job, right? I'm the king. I'm the top of the food chain here. So he immediately wants to lash out against this man, and he immediately wants to destroy him, and he wants to say, you did something bad. I'm going to show my righteousness by telling you that you did something wrong. I'm about to smash you like a little grape. All the time, not realizing, David, this is you. This is you, David. Nathan's about to hit you with it. And that's when he hits him, and that's when he says, you realize that this story is exactly what you did to somebody else. This is exactly what you've done to someone. You've treated someone horribly. And then, naturally, his attitude changes quite a bit. His attitude changes very quickly. But I think this is something that, man, it feels like we're seeing this all over our world today, right? It doesn't matter what you believe. It doesn't matter what camp you're in, right? The fact that we even have camps is ridiculous, right? But everybody wants to look at someone else and find somebody who's done something wrong so we can point at them and be like, you did something wrong. I'm going to tell everybody about the bad thing that you did. And once I tell everybody, everybody's going to see me as a hero because I found the person who did the wrong thing and I rooted them out. I got you. I caught you. I'm good because I caught you doing something bad. That's what everybody's about. And I know, of course, we would all like to blame social media for that, right? Social media did it. Nah, social media didn't do it. Social media gave us a better platform to do it. We always have this little part of us. Oh, sorry about that. We all have this little part of us that wants to get somebody else. Say, don't focus on me. Focus on them. Look at what they did. Ooh, that was terrible. And then we get some clout. We get some social status because of that. I found the person who did that wrong thing, and I got him. Don't worry. I'm one of the good ones, guys. I'm one of the good ones. We're so quick to do that because it keeps the focus off of us. It keeps us pure. It puts it all onto somebody else. Now, what David did is a terrible thing. What David did was a horrible thing. The way he would have responded to this imaginary person is also terrible given his action. But how do we think of David? We don't define David by this action, right? We all know that this happened. This is a part of David's checkered past. Which I think if we're honest, we've all done something that's the worst thing we've ever done in our lives. We'd like to keep that secret, right? So we've all done something bad. It might not be this bad, but we've all done something wrong, done something bad. And we don't want that to be what characterizes our life. I don't want that to be the thing that people think about whenever they see me is, ooh, you did that horrible thing. The lowest point, that's who you are now. And we don't think of David this way. Why not? Flip over, if you would, to Psalms chapter 51. And I'm going to read this entire psalm. It's kind of long, but it's so beautiful, and I think it really perfectly encapsulates this kind of change of heart that David had. And it encapsulates the change of heart that I would love to see happen in this world. Starting in verse 1, chapter 51 of Psalms. Have mercy on me, O God, according to your unfailing love. According to your great compassion, blot out my transgressions. Wash away all my iniquity. Cleanse me from my sin. For I know my transgressions, and my sin is always before me. Against you, you only have I sinned, and done what is evil in your sight. So you are right in your verdict, and justified when you judge. Surely I was sinful at birth, sinful from the time my mother conceived me. Yet you desired faithfulness. Even in the womb, you taught me wisdom in that secret place. Cleanse me with hyssop, and I will be clean. Wash me, and I will be whiter than snow. Let me hear joy and gladness. Let the bones you have crushed rejoice. Hide your face from my sins and blot out all my iniquity. Create in me a pure heart, O God, and renew a steadfast spirit within me. Do not cast me from your presence or take your Holy Spirit from me. Restore me to the joy of your salvation and grant me a willing spirit to sustain me. Then I will teach your transgressors your ways, so that sinners return back to you. Deliver me from the guilt of bloodshed, O God, you who are God, my Savior, and my tongue will sing of your righteousness. Open my lips, Lord, and my mouth will declare your praise. You do not delight in sacrifice, or I would bring it. You do not take pleasure in burnt offerings. And verse 17, this is the crux of this entire psalm here. My sacrifice, O God, is a broken spirit. A broken and contrite heart, you, God, will not despise. May it please you to prosper Zion, to build up the walls of Jerusalem. Then you will delight in the sacrifices of the righteous, in burnt offerings offered whole. Then bulls will be offered on your altar. Verse 17, my sacrifice, O God, is a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart. This is why we remember David. This is why David was a great man of faith. This is why David was someone that the Jews revered, still revere today. He was a man with flaws. He was a man with lots of problems. He'd had lots of bad days. He'd done lots of bad things. I mean, he was a man of bloodshed before we even get to this incident. He was a man of war. But yet, in this moment, when David was at his lowest, he realized, God, all I can bring you is the fact that I'm broken. I'm contrite. I'm absolutely nothing without you. I can't offer you anything that's worthy because I'm sinned. I'm a sinner. I'm flawed. I've sinned countless times. I've made a horrible mistake, but all I can bring to you is the fact that I want to be something better, that I want to be something different. This is the attitude that I think David would ask us to bring today. There's going to be people in this world who are always going to do terrible things. People are always going to make mistakes. People are always going to fail. There's always going to be at least that one person who does that disgusting thing that we all can't stand. And what would God want from that person? He would want a contrite heart. He would want forgiveness. And in that moment where we want to crush them, where we want to show everybody, oh, look at what they did. Come on, everybody, I'm pretty good. I pointed out this terrible thing they did that nobody had seen. I want us to remember what we all need, what we all ought to do. Because when we feel too powerful over people, we want to bring them down another notch to bring ourselves up. But anytime we can do that, there's always somebody way bigger than us who can bring us down several notches rather easily. Viewing our lives as indebted to God for what he has done for us. Indebted to Christ for taking that crown of thorns, as Adam was talking about. Taking on that crown of thorns, taking on sin, not because we did anything to deserve it, not that we could ever do anything to deserve that, but because he loves and cares for us. I mentioned briefly in Matthew chapter 18, there's the parable about the wicked, the unmerciful servant who is relieved of this enormous debt by his master because there's absolutely no way he can pay it. And he turns around and he immediately chooses to go after somebody who owed him just a little bit of money. Jesus tells this story because he wants us to be something better. And even in fact, thinking about the analogy of everything being a hammer, okay? So when we have this mentality that I'm a hammer, I'm made to smash other things. And when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? Everything is something we can just smash and destroy and knock down. I'm gonna crush it. not only does David give us this tool of a contrite heart that we're able to use to see everything in a better perspective, but earlier in Matthew chapter 18, verse 15, just back up a couple verses, we get another kind of tool to put in our tool belt, so to speak. If your brother or sister sins, go and point out their fault, just between the two of you. If they listen to you, you have won them over. You can almost just stop there. There you go. So we're still responsible to speak to one another. We're still responsible to point out each other's faults, to keep each other accountable. But the point here is to do it in secret. Why do we do that in secret? Well, because I'm pointing out something that's going on in your life, not so that I can point at you and laugh and get a bunch of people to laugh with me, but it's so that you'll hopefully change. I'm not trying to smash you. I'm trying to win you over. I'm trying to bring you in and say, hey, look at what Christ has done for me. Look at what Christ wants to do for you. Let's go this way. Let's follow him. Let's do something better than what we're doing now. If we live our lives like everything is a hammer, I mean, imagine if you dealt with everything. Imagine if you built things. Imagine if everything in your life, the hammer was the answer. Everything around you would just be broken. And I think that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a world that's been broken because we have too many hammers. And we just keep hitting stuff and hoping it's going to work, and it doesn't work. Jesus comes to fix things, to heal things, to repair what we find a really good way of breaking. This morning I ask if you feel like you've been a little bit too much of a hammer in your life. First of all, get in line. I think we could all say we've been there. If you need the prayers of this church, if you know you need to be something different, that you want to be something different, please come forward. If you want to be a member of this family, if you want to put on Christ in baptism, and you want to stop being a hammer for good, if you want to tell God, I want to come to you with that contrite heart. I want to come to you, and I want to seek forgiveness. I want to give that forgiveness to others because you want to live a new life. Come forward as well while we stand and sing.